there's so much to ask you. So let me start with one of many seminal interviews that you did, and that was with Yakub Memon. The only interview of Yakub Memon, who was executed for terrorism, for his links with Dawood Ibrahim, for being the brother of Tiger Memon, for his involvement in 1993. You were able to interview him when you were a journalist and founder and editor of Newstrack, and we'll talk about Newstrack later. But let's talk about Yakub Memon. I was watching the clip of that interview when I was preparing for this conversation, and it occurred to me that if this were all happening today, my sense is nobody would be able to interview a Yakub Memon while in custody, and if they did manage the interview, they would not broadcast it. Like, I just can't imagine that interview happening today. Can you?
You're right. And even if they broadcasted it, if at all, if they saw it as beneficiary to, if it would benefit the government, and they did broadcast it, the first thing that would happen would be I'd be attacked at how she got this interview because she has contacts with the terrorists and therefore she is part of the...
You would be called anti-national.
Yes.
Did anyone call you anti-national when you interviewed Yakub Memon?
Not at all. Not at all. The whole hangama at that time was why and how did she get it? Who allowed it? That was the hangama. And there was a lot of envy from other journalists who tried to do all kinds of things. But, once you've done the interview, what can they do? And so the only hangama was in the journalistic field. But everybody else, for them, it was a story.
What does that tell you about what's changed? Many things have changed about journalism, and not all have to do with governments. Some have to do with technology, some have to do with a generational work culture, and we can talk about all of that. But when you agree that an interview like the one you conducted with Yakub Memon could not take place today, what does that tell you about the state of media today?
See, it's not just the media, it's also the audience.
Yes.
All right. So the audience influences the media in many ways. And what I find is that it's impossible to make a statement, whether I make it here or whether I write it in an article or I tweet it. Everything is seen through the lens of which side is she on.
Yes. Okay.
So I might tweet something which on issues which I disagree with what is happening, and immediately you're stamped that she's pro-Muslim, terrorist, anti-national. And if I tweet something that I support something that is related to Hinduism, then suddenly I'm a Hindu Bhakt.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been accused of both.
Yes.
Because I go on the issues as they happen. And I think the biggest disservice we have done to ourselves as a people is that we have brainwashed ourselves. We've colored our own eyes. We can't see with fresh eyes. We can't hear with fresh ears. We can't read anything without just looking at the content. And there's a security in labeling someone. And these labels are very detrimental because most of us who are in journalism, I think when you do a story, it can fall either way. You don't know which way it's going to go, whether it will be negatively seen by the center or negatively seen by the opposition.
And often the same story is negatively seen by both.
Yes, many times.
Many times, in fact.
For example, when the UPA was in power, they were no angels. They had passed that section
69A.
Yes, and they put even cartoonists in jail. They were hounding people.
66A, I think it was.
66.
Yes.
They were hounding journalists. They were doing the same things. All right. In this center, they are also doing it, but in a different way. This is their own characteristic or nature to do it in their style. But I don't think that there's ever been a government that, since I've been a journalist, that has been happy with my journalism. All right?
Do you wear that as a badge of honor?
Yes. I remember one time when Rajiv Gandhi was first became Prime Minister, and he was doing these breakfast meetings with the media and getting to know us and basically PR job. So I called my brother, Arun Puri, and I told him that, he's invited me to breakfast tomorrow morning. And he said, don't go. Because once you connect like that socially, you can't write. And these are people Rajiv Gandhi was in my brother's class in Doon School. All right. We've known all these, at that time, that Lutyens, what we were accused of, is true. It was a very elitist,
closed social
because
cabal.
everyone had been to school and college together in some form. We all knew each other since childhood, which includes people like Naveen Patnaik, Vasundhara Rajya, all of the Kamal Nath, all of these people we've known since childhood.
Yeah.
So there comes a point where you have to just cut it off. Like when Vasundhara was in power, when she was chief minister, when I'd go to Jaipur, I would never contact her. I'd never invite her home in Delhi. But once she's out of power, she said, why did you call me? I said, because you're chief minister. I'm sorry, I can't handle it. Once she was out of power, then fine, I went to see her in Jaipur.
Yeah.